Hello everyone, welcome to the Green Man channel. Hope you're all doing good and well. So this is the second episode of my Shoegaze Files series, and today joining me we've got a really special guest with us. We've got Nathaniel from Stained Glass Stories, a YouTube channel which is dedicated to all things shoegaze. Some really great like classic band documentaries on there and all sorts of interesting info and snippets on shoegaze. I thoroughly recommend that if you're shoegaze curious, or if you really like shoegaze, or even if you maybe just new to it or whatever, that I recommend checking out Nathaniel's channel. It's really awesome. I've watched a few of those documentaries myself. I think I watched the Slowdive documentary the other day and I really enjoyed that. So anyway, how are you doing today, Nathaniel?
Very well, Tom. Thanks for inviting me on. Always happy to talk about my love for shoegaze here. Yeah, just chilling out this Friday morning. Yeah, it's going pretty well. So yeah, would you like me to start off just talking about what I personally love about shoegaze and
Yeah,
yeah.
that's right. Yeah, so we're both gonna have a little chat here about why we think you should give shoegaze a chance. But this is particularly a video, I guess, for people that are maybe new to the genre or curious about what it's all about. So yeah, absolutely feel free to kick off with your kind of, your reasons, your love of this genre.
Okay, sure. Yeah. So I think my reason for liking shoegaze is the same reason I like genres like, grunge, heavy metal. I know growing up, like in middle and high school, I really liked the heavier guitar sound you'd hear in heavy metal music, grunge music. And over time, I began to just get into shoegaze music probably when I was 18 or 19. And I think why it appealed to me is I love the layers, just the blurred lines between, is this the guitar? Is this the bass? Even the vocals sometimes, and what it seems to do is really push the limits of the guitar. They say Kevin Shields, lead singer of My Bloody Valentine, practically reinvented the guitar. So just the gorgeous textures you can create. So if you're somebody who enjoys like ambient music or any sort of heavier genre of music when it comes to rock, I think it might appeal to you.
Yeah, that's pretty true actually. I think, a lot of people's avenue into shoegaze, I would say, is perhaps through metal in a way. I mean, I think it may well have been mine thinking about it. I kind of knew of shoegaze. I was kind of aware of shoegaze for a while, but I never really dipped properly into it. And I think now you've got all these kind of hybrid metal genres, with, black metal with shoegaze and other kinds of metal sort of now combining with it. It's that heavier sound that I think does somewhat draw people in, and that kind of, those fuzzy guitar sounds that you hear, like Kevin Shields, as you say, kind of with his really sort of unique, certainly at that time, way of playing guitar. It's kind of fascinating how, you know how you sort of hear about how he went about putting together that kind of Love This album as well, with all the sounds and his experimentation and stuff. Really
Yeah,
interesting stuff.
nearly bankrupted the studio in the process. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
allegedly, I should say. Yeah,
yeah. That's what I've heard as well, that he bankrupted the
yeah,
process. Yeah. Um, yeah, I guess for me, it's kind of got a like a real special quality to it. Like shoegaze, um, it like reaches something inside me that a lot of other music just doesn't really do the same thing. It's kind of, I can't quite put my finger on exactly what it is,
mhm,
but I don't know if you find this. I find like shoegaze, um, it sort of has, like as you've been referring to, the sound textures and stuff, and a very sort of discernible kind of style from other genres. I think it just has this kind of a warm quality about it. It's kind of like, it's just feels like really great to listen to. It can be euphoric, it can be melancholic, it can sort of be really sort of emotive. Like I find it can, it's interesting because a lot of critics will say, shoegaze is all about kind of just the effects, and it's superficial sometimes, and this sort of thing. And yet I can't think of like a lot of songs I've listened to in kind of recent years, that the ones that have moved me have often been from shoegaze artists, and kind of dabbling with, these kind of bands like, Slowdive and all those kind of bands, as well as the sort of, the more kind of fuzzy kind of shoegaze bands, if I can call them that.
Yeah, yeah. Fuzzy, that's a good word for it. Yeah, and I just think when you hear, for me personally, when I hear like the ambient guitar textures, the fuzzy textures, they're just, to me, it's almost euphoric. Um, like just how it transcends everything else. And that's what I've always loved about it. It's so dizzying. You know, some people say shoegaze is boring, but I don't know how you could say that when I mean there is boring shoegaze out there, I'm sure, but you know, from what I've heard and listened to, it's just, I mean, it just amazes me the what people create and how the sounds they create, how it comes out of somebody's mind, you know?
Yeah, definitely. It's just this all this atmosphere that you kind of get, isn't it? You know, it sort of invokes all sorts of different feelings you can get from you know a shoegaze song and stuff. I also wondered whether you sort of thought that I had this thought when I was thinking about you know things I was going to say for this particular video on how I might sell shoegaze and stuff. But it's kind of young, isn't it? I mean, it was kind of really kind of born in the late 80s, early 90s, and to me that's pretty young as a genre of music. I mean, and it feels like there's still a lot of untapped potential. Do you think for shoegaze? You know, do you think?
Yeah, I think that's a good point because you know the original wave of shoegaze, you could say maybe I don't know 1988, starting with My Bloody Valentine's, You Made Me Realize. That was kind of their landmark EP. You could say it's probably 1988 to maybe 1993, 1994 when Loveless came out. Souvlaki, Nowhere by Ride. That's kind of the first wave. But then you know you have the big backlash by the mid 90s, and the Britpop scene blows up out in the
Mm,
UK. So
yeah,
I do think there was a lot of potential in the genre that just never came to fruition upon the initial wave. So it's nice to see nowadays a lot of groups picking up maybe where they left off back in those days. Because you're starting to see a bit of a shoegaze revival now. And what I like about it is a lot of these groups not only take elements of shoegaze, but they'll fuse it with electronic music, with post rock, you know, math rock. It's another thing I like about the genre is that you can easily mesh it with other genres of music.
yeah, it's certainly kind of I feel like it's still growing and it's still like people are finding new ways to um yeah, sort of slightly evolve the shoegaze genre. It kind of reminds me of a chat I was having with the chill dude on a couch a few
Mm-hmm.
weeks back where he was sort of saying, you know, despite some of its differences, you can sort of it's still very recognizable kind of around the world, the shoegaze kind of sound and everything.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was an interesting point. Cool. So I guess then we can maybe move on to what are three albums. So we're going to recommend three albums that we think would be a good starting point for you if you have maybe an interest in if you're maybe new to shoegaze and you're curious about what shoegaze has to offer and you know how to get into it. These are kind of, I guess, what a lot of people might call their gateway albums, and these are our kind of recommendations of gateway albums to maybe get into shoegaze. So, Nathaniel, have you got? Maybe you could just go through your three, and then I'll go through my three.
Absolutely. And, you know, I will preface this by saying oftentimes when people say the big three of shoegaze albums, or the three I mentioned earlier, Nowhere by Ride, Loveless by My Bloody Valentine, and Souvlaki by Slowdive. So oftentimes those are the three people talk about. The three I picked actually were none of those. I tried to pick some less talked about, just take this opportunity to highlight them more. But I will just mention those three because they are great as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, what I tried to do here is each album I picked was from a different decade, and each kind of had a different style to it because I wanted to kind of pick. I wanted it to be kind of eclectic, you know. So I'll kind of start off in with Blonder Tongue Audio Baton by Swirlies. Um, so Swirlies is an American group active in the '90s, and I think they're still active today, although I can't be sure on that. Um, and yeah, they released Blonder Tongue Audio Baton in 1993. And this album, it seems to fuse shoegaze music with like noise rock, slacker rock, um, and it's definitely one of the harsher sounding shoegaze records. So if you're a fan of like super dissonant, like maybe Sonic Youthy kind of music, maybe even a little Pavement in there, then Swirlies might be the right record for you. Um, yeah, it features a male and female singer, so you have kind of that androgynous quality that shoegaze is known to have.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and so I just also picked a few songs from the album I like. You have Pancake, which is super dizzying. Just love that song. One of my favorite shoegaze songs of all time, not just of the group. And the other one's Jeremy Parker, which is this kind of grandiose, super how do you even describe it? Just super epic sounding, heavy shoegaze song. Um, and I also like this album because it's quirkier than shoegaze albums tend to be. You know, you hear all the time people describe shoegaze albums as melancholic. I actually try to avoid using that word in my videos because I feel like, you could apply that word to almost any shoegaze album.
I guess so.
But
I use it quite a lot.
yeah,
As-
yeah, yeah. But I think this one's particularly quirky. There's some humor in it, and I appreciate that quality about it as well. So yeah, Blonder Tongue Audio Baton by Swirlies. That would be my first recommendation.
Cool.
All right, I'll move on to the second one here. Second one, Velocity Design Comfort by Sweet Trip, released in 2003. It fuses shoegaze with a much more electric sound. It's very fragmented, might be the word for it. Like it's a very exciting record. You hear like intelligent dance music in it, maybe some glitch music.
I don't think I know
Uh,
that one at all. Yeah, I don't think I know this one. Yeah. Hmm.
yeah, great record. It came out in 2003. At a time, there wasn't a lot of attention towards shoegazy music at that period of time, and it was one of those records that, upon its release, nobody really knew about it, but it's since been revisited, and now it's like it's a very much loved record. Um, yeah, it also has a male female singer, and yeah, I'll highlight a few songs on it I like. Fruitcake and Cookies is one song I like. It's this big 7-minute track that initially starts off like this glitchy electronic song. Then halfway through it kind of just like blows up into this super shoegazy atmosphere. And I also like the song Chocolate Matter, which is a more kind of conventional shoegaze track. And then the closer, Design 2-3, is one of my favorites as well, which is just a beautiful song. So yeah, definitely recommend Velocity Design Comfort. And yeah, now that's 2023. It's 20 years old, but still sounds futuristic. It's amazing. You won't hear anything quite like it. So yeah, a lot of surprises in it. So yeah, and yeah, that's kind of what I have to say about that one. So the last one I have here is To See the Next Part of the Dream by I think it's pronounced Parannoul. I've actually never said it out loud before, so I apologize if I pronounced that wrong. But
I know them. I think I might know the album you're talking about. I tried them out not long ago. This band, yeah, Parannoul, yeah,
yeah, Parannoul, yeah, they
yeah.
have the it's the blue album cover with like the factory with Smog coming
I
out.
think that's the
Yeah,
one. Yeah,
yeah, it's definitely one of the more modern releases. I wanted to make sure to highlight a more modern shoegaze album as one of my selections. Yeah, it came out 2021. That's a South Korean album, and this one kind of fuses shoegaze with more of a math rock, kind of emo sound. There's a roller coaster of emotions in this record. Um, when you translate the lyrics, you hear them. There's some depressive emotions, and yeah, it's a great record. Beautiful World, the opener, is one of my favorites. Super, hate to use it, melancholic track. I know I just said not to use that word, but yeah, Guitars in White is another, or Guitars in White Ceiling, I mean, super heavy track. I love that one as well. Um, yeah, again, the sounds he creates. And not a lot is known about Parannoul. If I remember right, I think he's anonymous. Like we don't know much about him. The album was self-released. I think he just describes himself as a student creating music in his dorm or bedroom. So it's quite remarkable when you keep that in mind.
mm. Yeah. It is something you sometimes find, isn't it? Yeah, interesting. So yeah, some pretty cool selections there. And yeah,
Yeah.
definitely I need to check out. Was it that Velocity
Oh yeah, velocity, design, comfort. One
Design
person,
Comfort?
I can't take credit for this, but I know one person said, might have been like a Reddit or something. Somebody described it as like when you're like flipping through channels late at night. It has sort of a like a very, I don't know, it's hard to describe, but it's just very eclectic, fragmented, exciting, and yeah.
Cool. All right, so yes, I'll go to my three choices, which are kind of, I guess, fairly obvious ones, actually. I think in comparison to your three choices there, which I think are nicely mixed and good way of kind of maybe drawing people in that are familiar, perhaps familiar just with the classic bands and haven't delved a bit deeper into more of the modern scene and stuff. So thanks very much for that. So
Yeah.
my first pick is and it's their new album. I think they've got a new album in the works, or I've read that Slowdive self-titled, which I have on CD here. I don't actually the next two albums I don't have on CD, but I've got this one. And I really fell in love with this album when I heard this. I thought that it's also kind of got a lot of memorable stuff in this. Star Roving and Sugar for the Pill, No Longer Making Time. I think they all sort of, Sugar for the Pill and No Longer Making Time in particular, their choruses are very, very memorable, I think. And you're kind of singing along to those for a while after hearing them. I think Sugar for the Pill is a really fantastic track. I just still cannot stop listening to that. And, all this time listening to this album, I'm still addicted to Sugar for the Pill. Love Don't Know Why, which was actually a song which I did feature on one of my top 40 songs of all time, because I just think it's just completely magical how they've mixed together all the different sounds on that song and the layers. You were talking about layers earlier, and I think the layers and the mixing on Don't Know Why are just incredible to listen to. And yeah, sonically, it's just a fantastic album as well. I think it's quite easy as a shoegaze album to pick up and listen to. A lot of, you're kind of My Bloody Valentine type albums, because there's sort of, so there's a lot of that kind of, that particular sound, that distortion that they use, or that they have, that fuzziness that means it can sometimes be a bit more hard to dig into the, underneath the songs. Whereas I'd say this was a kind of clearer, very clear album. So maybe if you're just curious, sort of, starting out with shoegaze, it's an album that I find easy to kind of, I found very easy to get into that one, and I love it as well. I can't stop kind of listening to a lot of the stuff on there.
Yeah, great record.
Yeah, so that's my first pick. My next pick is this is by a band called Airiel, and it's kind of a compilation of 4 EPs. And I think I kind of chosen this one. It's quite there's quite a variety of stuff on here. I think they've got different moods on this album. They've got some of them more kind of up tempo, slightly almost, I don't know, I'm going to use a word that often gets used, psychedelic. It feels like there's a little bit of sort of psychedelic and trippy elements to some of their music, but other of their music is more mellow. I was going to say melancholic, but I decided with mellow. Something different.
Yeah.
And in particular, there's a few songs I think on here that I really like, and it's fine. I think it's the EP called Melted and Dizzy. Those 2 EPs in particular from this kind of 4 EP compilation I really enjoy. And I've got, I wrote down the ones I really like: Re, 500 Deep, Sharon Apple, and In Your Room, which is like a 9-minute long song, but it goes by in a flash because I just think it's a really kind of beautiful 9-minute track. Don't know if you're familiar. Are you familiar with Airiel? Do you know of Airiel?
I am not, so I'm actually glad you highlighted them. I'll give them a listen.
Yeah, I think they've been around for a fair while, since like late 90s, early 2000s. They've not released a lot. I think they've got 2 full-length albums and then 3 or
Yeah,
4 EPs. Yeah,
if I'm not mistaken, don't they kind of have kind of like a post metal sort of sound to them? Or am I? No, is that I could be mixing them up with someone else, but
possibly. It might. I mean, the next band I'm about to talk about may fall more into that category, I think, possibly. Yeah.
yeah. but I'll definitely check Airiel out.
Yeah, I think what we'll have to do is put these choices in the description box afterwards. So,
Oh
um,
yeah, yeah.
so yeah, people can check them out. And my third choice is by Alcest, who are not actually strictly a shoegaze band per se, so a little bit maybe controversial, but I think this album I find is quite a lot of people, they listen to this and they sort of get curious about, oh, I'd love to hear more things that sound like this, because they're ordinarily, I think they're known more for being a bit of a kind of a black atmospheric black metal kind of a band. um, and this particular album was just them going pure kind of for a clean, much cleaner sound, you know, no black metal screams or anything like that on this album. And I think it really was really a really good album as well. It's called Shelter. So it's Alcest's 2014 album, Shelter. And there's a lot of really good tracks in there. I like La Nuit Marche Avec Moi, Opale, or I don't know how you say that word, but it also has a song which actually features Neil Halstead as well from
Really?
Slowdive. Yeah. So
Oh, I
there's a
didn't
link
know that.
there. There is a link to Slowdive. It's a song called Away, and features Neil Halstead on there as well. So yeah, some really cool stuff. And yeah, I find that's, you know, one or two people that I've spoken to have said that actually, you know, Alcest have gotten them interested in more shoegazier stuff because they're kind of metal fans or black metal fans, and they realise there's this whole other kind of style of music that they haven't really properly explored. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's a great gateway record. Yeah, like you said, you know, if it meshes metal or post rock or whatever with shoegaze, you know, that's a great way to bring people in. So especially with Neil Halstead involved, you know,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a great one.
Cool. All right then. Well, I guess that brings us towards pretty much towards the end of the video. So just want to say a really big thank you to Nathaniel for joining me on the channel today, giving up some of your time from the freezing cold, right? Is it still freezing cold over your way?
Yeah, it's warmed up a bit, but yeah, no shortage of the snow. Yeah, and of course, I'm always glad to be here, talk about shoegaze. This is my first time going on YouTube without a script, so
Oh
this is
wow.
new for me. Yeah, I usually read a script, so but it was nice to just kind of say whatever I'm thinking, you know, and
Well, I
yeah,
hope I've kind of been all right as a kind of collaborator to kind of
yeah, you've
get
been great.
YouTube. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
This actually, I remember, you know, my first kind of collab, I was a little bit like, you know, like actually like quite nervous about it and stuff because it was something that was entirely new to me at the time. So yeah, thanks so much for my time. And just to say to everybody, don't forget to drop a sub to Nathaniel's Stained Glass Stories channel for all things shoegaze. I think you put up a video today I saw earlier. Was that sort of Slowdive Souvlaki demos or something? I haven't watched it yet,
yes.
but I did see
No worries. It's a freaking mammoth of a video, that's for
it.
sure. Yeah, that one took almost 2 months to make, but yeah, I actually was able to get Christian Saville from Slowdive to come on, and I was able to
Wow.
interview him.
Oh,
Yeah, I was
fantastic.
super. Yeah, I was unbelievably nervous, but he's great, great, super friendly guy. So yeah, glad it's finally out, and yeah, super exciting day. Get to go on here and chat with you as well. So yeah, thank you so much again for having me on, and yeah, I wish you the best of luck with your channel too.
Thanks very much. Yeah, appreciate it. So, yeah, thanks very much, Nathaniel, and thanks everybody for watching this video about sort of why I listen to shoegaze. And I hope we've sold it as well as we can to you. And you're now going to check out lots of those cool shoegaze bands and maybe the albums we've mentioned. So, take care, everybody. And for me and Nathaniel, bye for now.